This is why I hate cliffhangers. This episode just perfectly summarizes why I absolutely despise cliffhangers. They're good. They're very effective. Like, I'll be honest, like, cliffhangers are amazing because it makes people want to continue watching or reading something because you left on such a dramatic moment. You're like, holy crap, what happens next? And oftentimes this can be used as for people to go buy more content. For instance, like with this conclusion, if let's say there was a store that had all of Summertime Rendering already translated, I could go to the store, buy all the manga, and just read ahead. It's a very effective tactic. I'm not gonna lie, but I absolutely loathe cliffhangers, because when you're like an anime fan, you're watching week to week, it is a curse because obviously we got to wait an entire week. And if you're someone that is very impatient, you can't hold yourself back, and if there is another source, like an original source, like a light novel, manga, visual novel, whatever, you might break, that patience and go read ahead, which could kind of undermine the emotion of the upcoming episodes, and obviously I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm 20 episodes deep. This is over 20 weeks worth of waiting for Summertime Rendering to get to this point, and it's just like, if I was to read ahead, I'd be like, why? What's the point at this point, since there's like only 5 episodes left? But, anyways, yeah, this is, wow, what an episode of Summertime Rendering, and Hizuru. Just like, let's just talk about this. So Hizuru's death here, and how Hizuru's very core message of her death. I'll talk about that in just a second, but I love how she gives over her brother, the Shadow Brother, over to Shinpei for Shinpei can have. It's a very nice moment, basically showing that she's finally letting go of that burden, that guilt that, she had with her brother, and being able to pass on peacefully and let go. It's a very nice moment. There's a lot of significance in that, but also the Shadow Brother will definitely be able to have, like, more help in the future. For instance, be able to help out Shinpei, probably travel with him, and probably when Ushio probably comes back, we're going to get to see those two fight together, and I'll talk about Ushio in a second. But, getting into Hizuru's death, her very death is very impactful for a variety of reasons. I mean, when you just see how she dies, she's very satisfied, she's happy with it, and obviously, when you think of death, it's a very scary thing. It's a common thing everybody fear. I think everybody that is living on this planet can relate with the fear of death. They may have never experienced it, but they can relate with the fact that someone has died, and it feels very scary to think of death. And when you see Hizuru just looking at death and is like, I'm fine with this, it's okay, I'm happy, etc., it's kind of like, don't worry, don't feel remorse, don't feel depressed, think that what my life did, or what I did with my life, had a lot of meaning. I set the stage for the final act. I set the stage for you guys to achieve victory. Through my sacrifice, through my life, you will be able to overcome the hurdle that is before you. I love the message of her death. It's very, I guess you could kind of say cliche to a certain extent, because it is a common theme with death of characters, but it is properly executed, and I don't think it's really forced upon you to just be like, oh, okay, this character had to die. It's a nice way to handle her character, and it's a good way for her to go out. I don't actually think that Hizuru will come back. I just do not believe that, and I'll talk a few moments about that. So basically, the reason why I don't think Hizuru will come back is because, for one, the message of this episode. Her very character pretty much has concluded. Her storyline has concluded with giving up her brother over to Shinpei, basically relieving the burden off of her shoulders and passing on the stage to the next person, aka Shinpei and everybody else around him. But obviously there's a lot more significance to that. Basically, her character, she's been burdened by guilt, and she's been wanting to make things right with, Heine since the very beginning, and trying to figure out what's really going on there, and her basically saying, look, Heine is a lonely girl that has nobody, has no one to be able to watch over her, and Shide is manipulating and abusing her, etc., will obviously be something that she's harboring as regrets or guilt within her, because she's gotten to experience that side of Hine that isn't necessarily evil, and so she knows deep down, probably deep inside of her, that lonely girl is still there, but Shide is obviously bringing out the darker aspects of her that is manipulating her down a path where there is just no return. And I do wonder what Shide's overall goal is, because obviously that's up in the air, especially with this episode. But anyways, let's talk about, like I said, the significance of her death. With her dying, passing on, etc., I don't think she's going to come back because, like I said, her character's concluded. The only justifiable means, if she was to somehow come back, okay, let's just say hypothetically, let's go on a tangent here and say that hypothetically Hizuru was to be revived in another loop or some form of time manipulation. It is indeed possible, with some of the things that have been displayed by Shinpei when it comes to time travel, to interacting with the past to some degree, and the whole message with Ushio sending it to, obviously, Hizuru. There's a lot of mysteries and things that we don't really know about yet, and so there's always that likely possibility that her character isn't necessarily perma-dead until the final page rolls. But even then, though, I think bringing her back would be kind of disrespectful to this very moment, and would kind of crap on her entire character. The only way I could see her technically coming back is if she's somehow with her living brother once again. Like, her brother actually is alive and isn't just a shadow. She's able to go through life with her real flesh and blood brother. That is the only way I could see her character coming back and being okay in terms of theme of the story. But anyways, yeah, I think her death is probably permanent. Now, for characters that are obviously not permanently dead, I think that Ushio is alive. Like, let's talk about that. So basically, you get to see a moment here where, I'm backing up to try to find the exact moment, basically where Shide, runs. Like, Shide and Hine runs, and Hine basically sees, like, a shiny, thing coming from Shinpei's pocket, and obviously that is the shell, Ushio's shell that was given to Shinpei a while back, and this is kind of implying some very big mysteries here, that Ushio is probably not dead. I mean, Shide was completely under the impression that Ushio isn't really dead, and basically trying to get him to loop, start in the other loop, etc. So this implies a lot of things, that something's going on with Ushio, and it probably has something to do with the message that was sent at the beginning of the story. Who really knows? But that is something to factor in, that it's clear that Ushio isn't dead, and anyone that kind of believes she was permanently dead obviously, missed some of the foreshadowings that's been kind of hinted at since the very beginning, but it's understandable. There's a lot going on within this story. But, let's talk about Shide for a second, because I think that he is just such a very important and impactful character that does need to be discussed. Shide, literally, this man right here, this dude, okay, this absolute shad of a human being, okay, he is legitimately, one of the scariest villains I think I have seen in, a long time. Legit. This man, he's a fan of RPG games. We found this out, and it's been kind of hinted here and there. We've seen the things with Shide's character, that he loves RPGs. He talks about video game consoles, demon lords, etc. And he made it very clear in the previous episodes that he is an extreme fan of Final Fantasy VII. And if anyone has ever had, let's say, the time to sit down and play, let's say, the OG Final Fantasy VII, and not even just the remake, but just the OG, you will know who Sephiroth is, and what he does within the story. And it's like a 20-plus-year-old game, so I'm going to save some spoilers. I'm just going to be honest with you. But basically, in the original Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth is not a good dude, by any means. He turns against Cloud, he basically kills Cloud's main lover straight through the back and all that. A very powerful moment that shocked everybody around that time when they were playing Final Fantasy VII, but also Sephiroth was someone that was using his mother to be able to achieve great power. He kind of, in a way, you could say a little bit of mommy issues to a certain extent, and Shide's very character is very in line with Sephiroth as an individual. For instance, Sephiroth is basically kind of like an alien, at least his mother is, that came in and was used, etc. etc., to Shide's entire being probably coming from space as well, like an alien, to also having mama issues or being created by a mother, etc., which, you know, Sephiroth kind of was like that, to also having his own objective and goal, which Sephiroth is like that as well. There's a lot of similarities within the characters. They're not the exact, like, one by one the same, but there is a lot of similarities, and it's very clear that Shide, as a character, in terms of personality, he sees himself in Sephiroth. When he was probably sitting down and playing Final Fantasy VII, he was like, holy crap, I'm reminded of myself when I see Sephiroth within this story, and most likely a lot of his, like, his motives, or some of the tactics he uses within the story, he uses things that probably undermined Sephiroth, what caused Sephiroth probably to lose in Final Fantasy VII, and he's trying to not fall for those exact same mistakes. It's really cool. I love Shide as a character. He's a really fascinating character, and I have been really enjoying everything about him since basically his introduction and finding out more about his personality. Just such a great character, and I want more of him. I feel like there's obviously a lot more, because obviously there's a goal he wants, and I wonder what his main goal is behind the scenes besides just helping out, you know, Heine. And obviously, Heine is starting not to trust him too much because of everything being set up. So yeah, it's, this is a good episode, like, legitimately a good episode of Summertime Rendering. If there's one thing I do want to comment on, by the way, is definitely the scene basically at the end where Shinpei was about to, like, end it all. He put the gun right here, and, you know, Mio stops him. Shadow Mio stops him, and I think this is a nice contrast to where the story began. If you remember in episode 1, Shadow Mio killed Shinpei with a gun. That's what happened. Straight up killed him. And I like how Shadow Mio saves Shinpei from making a mistake that's irreversible. And I think this is just a nice, like, direction the story's going, kind of the nods to Shadow Mio, but also within the episode as well. You have it to where Shadow Mio kind of watches, like, Shinpei give it all up, and he ends it all right in front of her, and obviously she doesn't do nothing to stop it, but then in the next loop, she does stop it. There's a lot of good within this episode. I like the symbolism and where the story's going. I can't wait. I honestly can't wait for episode 21. It's going to be a long week's wait, but we're going to have to wait regardless. But okay, I guess I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, as always, please do leave me a like. It does help me out a lot. Leave a comment if you liked the episode or you hated the episode, whatever. Just let me know in the comments below. With that, be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.